In this video, I'm going to show you how you can make boxplots using the graphs package ggplot2. So in previous videos, I've shown you how to do boxplots using base R, but ggplot2 is an excellent package for making your graphs. It's really flexible. You can do a lot more with them. So it's really worth putting some time into learning ggplot2. So if you haven't already got it installed, we'll need to install ggplot2 as a package. We only need to do that once. And then we do need to activate that package. So pull it out of our library. And the data set is just called Boxplots, and it's available in the link below the video along with this code as well. So I'm just going to read in this data from the CSV file, and I'm just going to call it DF for my data frame. So here's the data. So what it is, it's just looking at students' concern about studying statistics on a 1 to 20 scale, and their score from 1 to 20 on a test at the very start of the year. And then I've got this variable here called stats background, which is zeros and ones. Essentially, this is if students have studied any stats before. If they haven't, there's no background, they get 0. If they've studied stats before, they've got some experience, they get a score of 1. So we're going to label that variable first. We're going to label it as a factor. And this is quite important as later on when we're using this grouping variable, I just say x equals a lot of the time for it. If I don't label it, I would have to state group equals. I'd have to tell, this is our grouping variable. The other advantage this has is it's going to feed these labels into our graph as well, so we don't have to relabel any axes. So let's do that. There we go. None unexperienced there. So we can plot a simple box plot. So it's very straightforward doing simple box plots in R. So we use our ggplot command. So we're telling it we're going to produce a ggplot and what our data frame is. And then we have this command AES, which stands for aesthetic mapping. And this is just something you're going to see. It's a variable in the data. There's something that you are going to display. So it's really simple, the aesthetic in this case. So we're going to say our aesthetic is y equals concern. So we're going to plot our concern variable. It's going to be on our y-axis. And then we just have a plus, and then we tell it the type of plot we want. Geom box plot is the command that we need. Okay, and that's basically it. So we can run that. And there you go, it produces us a very unattractive box plot. So we can see our standard box plot with whiskers and the box, and we've got an outlier there with a score of 20 as well. Now you can see I wrote y equals concern. So we've got concern on the y-axis. I could flip this and we could plot it the other way. So I could say x equals concern. So we could have our x-axis as concern. So if you run that, we get the same ugly graph, but the other way around. So nothing particularly exciting to write home about here. But that's how we can plot a basic plot. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to add a little bit of complexity to this before we change the colors and change the aesthetics on it. So let's look at things in a slightly more complicated way. Let's look at box plot by condition. So what I want to do is I want to include stats background. So I want how concerned my students are based upon their stats background. So the command is not that much different. Y, I'm going to have the y-axis as concern, and then the x-axis is going to be stats background. And now, because I labeled that earlier as a factor, it knows how to nicely group it. So we're just basically adding this one extra bit of code, x equals stats background, which group it knows what it's going to do with that. And then we just ask for another box plot again. So we're just adding one little extra bit to that command. So now you can see you've got stats background and our box plots are now split into two. Got no background and some experience. You can see our two separate box plots. Now we could flip this box plot. Of course, we could just write these in a different order. But we could actually just add this little command here, plus coord flip. So if we flip the coordinates, we're just flipping x and y. There we go. We've got the plot going the other direction. It's up to you which one you choose, which one you prefer the aesthetic of. However, in the examples here, we're going to further edit this way round. Okay, so we're going to edit this a little bit further. So we continue with the same command as before. So all we ever do is really is add lines. So we just keep adding different commands to our ggplots. So this is our command we had before. And what we're going to do after our boxplot command, we're going to say color is blue. This is the color of the actual outline of the box and the lines here. And then the fill is going to be green. So we're going to fill that in green. So if you can run that. So what we've done is we've done a blue outline and we've done a green fill on it. Now you'll note this alpha here. This is just how see-through something is. So if I change that to 1, it goes completely opaque. So it's again up to you how you wish to do that. Let's get it back to what we had before. So you can see we can see through that with some transparency in it. So we can label those colours. Now, if we want, we could label our boxes in different colours. So again, we've got the same command as before in our boxplot, boxplot. We've got colour, I'm going to do a black outline here. And then my fill is a list. So I'm doing a fill and I say C, which is my list of colours. I've got 2 boxes, so I'll need to state 2 colours. The first one will be green, the second one will be blue. So if I run that, I get a green and then a blue box plot. So you can see it starts to look a little bit neater than it did before. And you can mess around with these colours as well. Just say it's ggplot colours. There's loads of different colours you can choose from. They're not just colours, like green and blue. There's all variations on that as well. So you can make graphs that are very specific to what you like. Next, we may want to change this. We may want to change this background. It's not particularly attractive background. There's loads of different basic themes that you can do. So we're going to add theme options, show you all these different themes that we can produce. So again, this is all the same command. We're just going to add theme classic. So this is going to give us our classic theme. There you go. It's much nicer. That doesn't have the grey on it. Doesn't have the lines on it. It's a bit neater there. With our theme light, theme minimal, and theme void, which I wouldn't particularly recommend doing because it's just some floating boxes mean very little. So we'll stick with probably the one you're most likely to use will be theme classic. So you can see now we're starting to make this a little bit neater. Now we can label our axes a bit more neatly, if you like. Stats underscore background's not very pleasant to look at. We could label that maybe a bit clearer. We can give it titles, we can give it subtitles, we can give it captions. So all we do, again, we've got our classic, and now we're going to add to that. And this is the labs command. So we can have all different labels. So the title, Boxplots of concern across backgrounds. If you want, probably unlikely to use it, but we can put a subtitle, which I've called easier than it looks. We can have a little caption as well. I'm going to say it's the source of it, which is Paul's YouTube. Then we can have our x-axis labeled as statistics space background, and our y-axis as concern scores. So if we run that, there we go. We sort of label it a little bit better there as well, so we can see we're getting more information in that, so it's getting a bit clearer. Now, another thing, the last thing I'm going to show you is we can add every single data point to this if we want. So all our participants' data points can be transposed over the graph. I'm going to show you 2 ways of doing this. So the first one I'm going to show you is with a jitter. So this is all the same as we used before, but now I'm going to add plus, jitter, color equals red, size is 1.5, and alpha is 0.5. So that's going to be the size of the dots, it's going to be the transparency of the dots, and that's going to be the color of my dots. So what this does, use the jitter command, it adds the dots. The spread of the dots along the x-axis is random. It's put in randomly so you can see things. Obviously, you're either none or experienced, you wouldn't see that spread. It's just the way the jitter works. So it puts those on, but you can see the spread of the data. Sometimes, it's really clear the distribution of it when you've got a very big data set, you'll see the dots clustered, but then sometimes it's hard to read it as well. So it's up to you if you wish to use jitter or something like that to add these dots. You can see we've added all our data points there. The other way of doing it is to add a dot plot over it. So for this one, our bin axis is our y-axis. So our scores, and then we've got dot size, we've got where we're going to put the dots, we're going to center things, dot size, the color, and the bin width of it. If you run that, you can see it puts them in right in the middle for us there, and then the numbers, we've got 3 of the same score, they're all stacked together. This obviously looks a bit neater than jitter. The jitter is sometimes better in different situations. So you can see we can start on a pretty basic plot, and then we can do lots of editing, lots of playing around with it, and that'll produce us a much neater graph. And that's the tip of the iceberg, really. There's so much we can do with ggplot. We can do a lot more with this, but that's going to cover you producing some pretty neat graphs that you'll be able to use in reports or publications.